Insight. Phone lines are open. Dial 384-2191.
All right, the Insight program for the first Friday in the month of June. It is the 4th of June already, 2021, on the Insight program here today. Mike Warren sitting in for Jeff Cannon on the program today. It is the first Friday of the month, and so we designate that for the city of Marshfield and whoever they want to send, whether it be a mayor, a council president, a city administrator, whoever we can find that is willing to put up with us for an hour. And he drew the short straw again today. City Administrator Steve Barg is back on the Insight program. Good morning.
Thanks, Mike. I love that phrase, whoever they want to send. That's great.
Well, under normal circumstances, we know who would be here, but these aren't normal circumstances. And, we couldn't even have a mayor's breakfast at the Dairy Fest this morning because we don't. We have the breakfast. We don't have the mayor part.
That's true. And by the way, I think the last time we talked, it was right before I went on vacation. And I think I suggested I was going to reach out to Nick Paschal, the council president, see if he'd want to do this sometimes. And then, of course, I got on a plane about 12 hours later and went to California and didn't think about it until, right now, actually. I'm sorry.
I forgot about it until 12 seconds ago.
I will get back on that because I'll see if you'd like to join us in this program.
So that doesn't just happen to me? I thought
No. Those, I don't know what you're like when you take off for vacation, but the last 12 to 24 hours, I'm not sure my thought pattern is very organized. It's very random. It is. I may remember to bring sunglasses and I may forget almost everything else. Yeah, I know.
Just, panicking and throwing stuff in a bag and running out the door and saying, I'll, worry about everything else later.
Yeah.
Right?
I probably, by the time I go through the line, I probably looked at TS agents like, this guy might have to be checked down to his socks. This guy seems a little bit nervous.
For reasons we can't discuss, we are now without a city administrator.
Well, I got to tell you just a real quick joke if I can. I have a history of not emptying my pockets before I go through the TSA line. So my family has seen me over the years dump out everything from coins, mints, pens. It looks like there's a whole store in there sometimes.
Oh, wow.
But I'm trying to get better.
Steve's convenience store is now open at the airport. So stop by and see him. Anything you need, anything that can be confiscated, Steve's got in his pocket.
Absolutely.
Right. Awesome.
Absolutely, Mike.
Okay. Well, we'll let you get away with just about anything here. So you're going to be right at home with everything that you're hiding in your sock or whatever it might be, all the contraband. So we welcome that.
Thank you.
So this is our monthly visit with a City of Marshfield representative.
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, so
really
again, under normal circumstances, we'd have, in years past or whatever, the mayor on the first Friday of every month. But we'll tackle that issue next spring. How's that sound?
That sounds good. We know we'll have it get under control by that time, right?
I think that's, I mean, and just for people who are still wondering, or if they don't know, we won't get a mayor until next April. The council basically decided to hold off on filling that position until April. They're not going to do it. They're not going to have a special election. And so they just decided to wait, basically, right? We're waiting until the next regular election next year.
Correct, Mike. And however, by December 1st, right after Thanksgiving, the filing period will open for the mayor position. So if you're out there, you're listening, you're interested, a person you think might be interested, start thinking about it because 6 months from now will come up quickly.
Yeah, you're right. Wow, you put it that way. Yeah, you're right. It's the next election cycle starts in a matter of months here.
Yeah, and somebody who is really seriously thinking about running for mayor or council usually does so, well before the filing date opens. So, be aware of it. If you know somebody who might be interested, you might have an opportunity.
Yeah, should probably start thinking about it now if you're serious about it, right?
Yeah, and if you have any questions about what the job entails, let me know, or find somebody on the council, let them know. A lot of times people don't know. One of the conversations that's come out of this last couple months, Mike, is what are the formal responsibilities of the mayor what are the other expectations of the position. So, before you think about running, you might want to talk to somebody and get a sense of what people will be looking for from you.
Yeah, okay. Probably a good idea. Do some homework before you, a lot of people make a lot of, rash decisions, or, they say, well, I could do that job, or, oh, that's, I'm going to do this or that. And then they start to get into it, not realizing really how easy it's not.
Well, true. And another thing is a lot of people get into government and want to run for mayor or council because they have one issue that they're totally strong about. And they forget when they become the council person or the mayor or whatever, that there's a whole host of other topics that they're going to have to deal with besides what really got them interested. So good to find out what the depth and breadth is of what you do. And
we've had other people say this before. If you are getting into city government because you've got one reason, one topic, one special interest thing, that is the absolute wrong reason to get involved with city government, whether it's running for mayor or common council or whatever the case may be. Yeah. Don't get involved just because they ripped up a street in your neighborhood, or they didn't do this or they didn't do that. I think the general consensus over the years has been, look, we are looking for people who are willing to serve because they want to leave this community better off than what they found it, or what have you, or they just have a willingness or a want or a desire to serve their community as an elected official. Because somebody teed you off about something is not the reason to get involved, or I don't like the person who's got the seat now. So because I don't like them, I'm just going to run just for the sole purpose of getting rid of them. That is also not the reason that you should run for public office. I would strongly caution again. I've heard people say that over the years. Yeah,
you'd be surprised. In fact, I don't think you'd be surprised the way you're talking, how many people run for motivations that maybe aren't totally pure or are not on the mark. I mean, if that's what gets you interested, if you feel like you were wronged in a project or your street was treated badly or whatever, maybe that gets you interested in city government. But before you put your name down and file for office, make sure you understand what's going on, because it's way more than that one topic.
Well, and not only that, you as one individual on the council or as the mayor or whatever, you're not going to be successful if you as an individual are trying to change one thing or what have you. It takes 10 people on a council. Sometimes the mayor is a deciding tie-breaking vote. There's a lot to it. One person really cannot affect change all by themselves.
No, you have to build a consensus, and you have to get other people on board, and there's a lot more work to it than just getting in front of a podium or up to a microphone and screaming. Right. But I will say this. I mean, if you're interested, then start looking at what we do. Look at our agendas. Mm-hmm. And you say, oh my gosh, they talk about finance and public works and parks and this big thing about technology. I wasn't really ready for that. So before you decide to run, make sure that you understand the full gamut of what we do.
Yeah, and not only that, it's not just, in terms of the council or what have you, it's not just 2 meetings a month. It's not the second and fourth Tuesday. Oh, they only meet a couple times a month? That's, 24 meetings a year? I can handle that. Well, look, as an alderman, you get to serve on all these other committees. You've got committees that you are required to serve on, and it's a lot more than just council meetings.
Yeah, it is. That connection between the committees and the council is huge. So when you're assigned to the Park, Recreation, and Forestry Committee, Historic Preservation, or whatever, I mean, you need to take those seriously. We expect you to do that and be part of those groups and be able to come back to the full council and say, hey, look, I'm on this committee, and we need some funding to go in this direction.
Yeah.
So it's expected that you'll be a full participant.
Mm-hmm. That's the idea.
Yep.
Anyway, all right. So full participant, and we've got. You mentioned, if you want an idea of what we do as a city, check out our agendas, which have been. It always amazes me that you guys find stuff to put on agendas. It's like we haven't thought of everything yet. We haven't legislated our way through everything yet. Things are always changing. It is such a fluid situation in city government, and really county and state and national governments as well. But I'm always amazed that you find stuff to pass or things to vote on, because stuff is always happening or changing or coming up. This time, at this particular moment, that's no exception. There's a lot of stuff that the city's dealing with right now.
Yeah, I know sometimes we went through a lot with the police chief and the mayor, a few months ago as far as their removals from office. And, people probably thought, well, when you're done with that, then you can just, rest on your laurels. And there's always issues. You're right. You follow us closely. There's always topics that need to be dealt with. Sometimes we'll be 10 days out from putting an agenda out and we'll think, gosh, this agenda looks really light. By the time we get closer to that day, it's filling up a lot. So you are correct.
Well, let's talk about some of the issues that have come up recently. We haven't had a meeting since, was it May 26th?
25th, yep, 25th. I think Tuesday the 25th?
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
May 25th was the last meeting. And some of the big agenda items there, this idea for a city subdivision has been a big topic of discussion here in the past month or so. Where's that sitting at right now?
Well, that's still moving forward, and it's getting a lot of good feedback from people in the community. I think we had 5 people might come to the podium on the 25th and speak to that under public comment. We had an HR person from the clinic. We had a realtor. We had a downtown business owner, and they all were saying the same kind of thing. We need more lots for people to build on because people who want to come here, they can't find locations to put up a house. And so do what you can, and please keep this proposal moving forward. This particular proposal would call for 23, I believe it is, single-family lots. We've now identified the site publicly. It's on the west end, out in the area of 5th Street and Birch, on the south side of that area. And it's a very good area for development. Looks really good, and the draft of how it would lay out is very positive. The city, acquiring the land and working with builders and with interested parties to get some homes constructed. It's going good. The Board of Public Works on Monday approved moving forward with the plans and design work and soliciting bids for the street, sewer, water, and everything. It's expected, if all goes well, Mike, that by October the infrastructure will be in the ground and the lots will be ready for sale. The council challenged the Development Services Director, Josh Miller, with pre-selling at least half the lots. He's done that. He's topped the 50% mark, I understand. So the interest is there, and things are coming together.
The idea being that the city, not one home builder or developer or whatever can afford to front the cost, for everything that is involved with a subdivision. You are talking about, getting the site ready, site preparation, excavation, putting the infrastructure in. Now I got to put, yep. sewer, water, all this stuff in, and then build the home and then sell it. I mean, there's so many things involved with that. The idea being, well, maybe the city could get involved with putting in some of the upfront stuff, and then these developers come along and take care of the rest, build the home, and then somebody sells it, right? You're
exactly right. And the cost of all this is over $1.5 million. And for a 23-lot subdivision, that's a hard thing for developers to do at this point. One of the concerns that you hear from time to time is, what's the city's role? In other words, this is great. This subdivision does well. People build nice houses. Wonderful. Is this where we're headed in the future? And at heart, I'm a free market person. I generally don't. I want to see the private sector deal with things, and that the public sector gets involved only if they have to. But I've been persuaded on this one for a while by Josh and others that at this point in time, with as few lots as we have in the city, and the fact that people are choosing to build in surrounding towns, which is okay. We don't begrudge the town of McMillan and others for getting homes built out there. But we're also hearing that people aren't even coming to this area because they can't find suitable lots to build nice homes on. And so that's an issue. The other thing is, I know that there's been a little bit of heartburn about the fact that these are going to be homes in the 300 plus range. And we've had a lot of discussion before about what they call affordable housing. Can we see more homes constructed for, 200,000 or thereabouts? That's hard to do. I think we had Ashley Frederick, come to the podium and say that it's very hard to construct a home for that cost anymore. But we're still going to be wired, Mike, to trying to make sure that there's homes of all different price ranges and types available, because everybody's got a different interest. You might be a first-time home buyer. You might be an empty nester. Wherever you are in your life cycle, we'd like you to be able to find a home or a lot that would be suitable for your use.
Well, and she, Ashley, the realtor who went before the council and spoke about this and the need for these higher-end homes, said, there is the demand. First of all, let's get that clear.
Yep.
The demand is there. 23 lots, and there was sort of an inference that, look, 23, we have no problem filling that, and in fact, the demand is even more. Yeah. But what she also said is there will be a chain reaction. So you will actually create other housing within the other tiers. So as people move up,
right.
Okay, sort of graduate to these higher-end homes that are, again, going to be in that probably 400,000 range or higher, that, again, a lot of people are looking for in this community. But as they move out of their, mid to upper range home now, in that, I don't know, whatever the range would be, 150 plus, to 300,000 range, those homes, that they move out of those homes, the people in the middle range homes will move up. And then in the lower, if those lower end housing people are looking to sort of move up or graduate or improve their situation, now they can maybe they're at a point in their life that they can now afford a $100,000 to $150,000, $160,000 home. They can move up, and now it's creating housing at all of these different levels.
Yeah, it really is a game of dominoes. And it plays into that life cycle housing idea that you're exactly right. When you get people, building the $400,000 house, they're leaving somewhere. They might be coming here from somewhere else. They might not be a homeowner in this area, but they very well might be somebody here looking to upgrade. And they leave their $220,000 home, and that frees that up for somebody who's been looking for a home just like that. The market then gets spurred on.
Yeah. Okay. So this is moving forward. It's going good so far?
Yeah. You've heard a lot in the last 30 days. You may hear less going forward for a little while because the approvals are kind of going well. The real big moment, I think, Mike, is going to be I think it's early to mid-July, somewhere in there. Whenever the bids are due, maybe it's before that. But when the bids come in and they're open and discussed publicly, if they look good, hey, this project is a go. If it turns out, and we understand there's a lot of inflation right now in the construction area and the infrastructure, building areas, if it turns out that the bids are wacko, then there'll be a pause button hit. And people will be saying, okay, we were okay with it if it costs this to build the infrastructure, but if the street, sewer, and water now cost 50% more than that, what do we do? But assuming the bids come in where we expect them to come in, we're going to be flying, and we're going to be putting up the infrastructure this summer, and by October, hopefully we'll have completed infrastructure and have lots ready for sale. I mean, we're pre-selling them now, but lots ready for development.
Okay. Interesting. That's good news.
It is. And one of the things, I think you and I have talked about this before over the years, housing is economic development. Okay, some people think, well, why focus on the industrial park, for crying out loud. What are you talking about trying to build homes? Let that happen by itself. But if people don't have places for their employees to live, if they don't have amenities like fan-to-hay waters for their families to do, economic development slows down. It really does. It needs all those components.
Well, we had, the representatives from the clinic and a few other people have said, look, we can't, we try to recruit, we try to hire people, and they want to come here. They like what we have to offer, except there's no place for them to live. They don't have the homes that they are looking for. We don't have them here right now. So that's a problem.
Well, I'd encourage people to listen to her voice, too, because sometimes people will say, why are we trying to encourage people to build homes upwards of $400,000? Now, come on, City of Marshfield, get with it, get to real life here. Well, we want to see home building of all different price ranges, Mike, but that group of people who otherwise would not come here and live here and be part of our community, boy, that's a real loss.
Yeah. I think we have a question from a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning. Welcome to Insight.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. My question this morning is the city is putting up the infrastructure for these lots or for the subdivision. Well, what about the private contractors in Marshfield that have their subdivisions? They don't get that luxury. So now the private contractors are in competition with the city, and the city is already, with the taxpayer money, putting in the infrastructure. So I don't understand how this is a positive. You're taking work away from our local contractors. So what do you say to that when the contractors are looking at you asking, hey, where's our help with the infrastructure? Because it isn't there. They have to pay for it out of pocket, similar to that of the Nikolai subdivision. And I'll hang up and listen to your answer. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks for the question. We appreciate you listening. Steve?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. Very thoughtful. Thanks for calling in. I just want to make sure we all understand what we're talking about here very briefly. The city is still, employing companies to do the construction of the street and water and sewer. And we're also just, we're contracting then or signing on the dotted line, if you will, with people who are going to develop these lots. So they're still going to use, private contractors to build the homes, private contractors to do all the, the plumbing and all the stuff that goes along with it. We're really not undercutting the fact that there's going to be a lot of private dollars that are going to be reaped as part of this process. If your question is, how do other developers compete with us? The reason we're doing this is because we're not seeing other developers come forward. In fact, other developers have largely told us that they don't see developing subdivisions in Marshfield right now as being feasible financially. So we're trying to jump in where others have not moved and have told us that they don't think financially it works for them to do it at this time, given the costs. I'm hopeful this will not be an ongoing thing where every year somebody's on the radio, whether it's me or somebody else from the city, saying, hey, look, we got another city subdivision to talk about. But at this moment in time, I think the players involved, the people you might feel are being aggrieved by this, I think are very thankful to see this for the most part. There may be a developer or two who is poised to bring something out and now says, well, how in the world can I compete? The city lot prices are going to be lower than mine would be because, they're using city dollars. But I think for the most part, the community that does this sort of thing is happy to see this. I know the building community is.
I guess the other thing to keep in mind, isn't this different than one contractor building one single-family house at a time? This is a subdivision, and I don't know if there's any difference or not. Maybe not, but from what I've heard in the discussions, a lot of contractors are going to be, happy to get some of this work. Again, contractors who aren't building anything right now or even trying to.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the lots are not there to build on.
Right.
And so when I was listening to the caller, and again, I totally appreciate and respect what you're saying, but I just want you to understand that what's the idea that if we didn't do this, that in July somebody was going to come along and subdivide 15 acres and do something similar. We're seeing it's not happening, and it hasn't been happening for a while, and that's where we've gotten down to the limited number of lots that we have. So I think everybody respects the fact that at this moment in time, this is the right thing for us to do, and they know that a lot of dollars are going to come into this community as a result. I mean, there's going to be a lot of construction and a lot of ancillary benefits from this.
Well, more taxpayers means more tax base means more of us sharing the burden of the tax rate, right? I mean, that's a good thing for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think people forget, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. So some people say, well, hey, the city of Marshfield, we're fine. I've lived here for 40 years, and we're always around 19,000 or whatever. But, we're concerned right now that if there's no lots for people to build on, they're going to make choices elsewhere, and that's going to, like you said, hurt our tax base.
Yeah.
What about jobs? What about, the employers who are looking for workers that would like to come here? It's a package deal.
I'm just trying to look at this from I'm a taxpayer in the city too, and I'm going, I'll take the help. You want to put up 23 homes and 23 new homeowners are going to help me pay for this tax base that we have and to run city government? I'll take the help. I'll take all the help I can get.
Yeah, I agree. And financially, if people are, I'm thinking about what the caller said. There may be others listening too saying, well, the city's putting money into this. Is that my tax money? And there are some dollars that fit in that category. Some are coming from the Economic Development Board from another fund that doesn't come from tax dollars.
Okay.
But the reality is taxes are going to be paid. Lot prices are going to be paid, to us as people buy these lots and build on them. The city has an ROI on this too. We believe that this is going to be something that we're going to see our investment paid back, and we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't have that staked out.
From what I understand, so the city is taking money to the tune of, well, you said Economic Development Board is putting in the lion's share of this, right?
They are $900,000 from that $1 million plus fund. Then that leaves the city with about $600,000, $622 actually.
Okay.
And we're hopeful, as we talk to some other people, Wood County and others who were on board a few years ago when we had the same idea and didn't do it, that we're going to be able to get the number down to around $350. And if we get down the city's contribution down to around $350, somewhere in there, I mean, it's a great starting point for us. it's hard to argue at that point that it's not worth the benefits of what we're accomplishing.
But now you said ROI. I've heard a number, return on investment. You spend a little, and the return is in the form of tax. Now
Correct.
they're going to be 23 homes, property tax base of, did I hear $9 million?
Yeah, I think eventually $9 million when it's all built out. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm not doing the math in my head, but that's significant. Yeah, and I think we talk about ROI when we talk about building in the industrial park. We talk about it other times too. All we're saying, we're not trying to make ourselves sound like we're in Wall Street. All we're trying to do is say that over 5 years, 7 years, whatever number of years, we're going to hit that break-even point, and after that, it's all great. It's all gravy, so to speak. So, those timelines are reasonable, and honestly, this is more than the timeline though of getting our investment return. This is about the future of our community and what happens if we stagnate from having nowhere to build.
Good question. All right. Yeah, like they always say, you can't make more, land.
No, you can't. You can't. And if people, and we got some good developers in this area, but if they look at it and say, you know what, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We hope there's a day that comes along when it does work again. But for right now, just staring at each other is not going to.
But you've had contractors say, look, it's not going to happen. We can't afford to do this kind of thing right now.
It is, because we've been trying to figure out ways in which to incentivize them to do it. We're not looking to be, leading the show here. That's not our goal. We have a lot of things to do at City Hall, but they've kind of looked at us, and just like you said, they've said, it's with the debt that we incur and the build out timeline and all the things involved here with doing a development in Marshfield, it's just not feasible for us right now. And yet we have people saying, I want a place to build. You have nowhere. You have how many lots? Just a few scattered across the whole city.
Actual buildable lots, there aren't many, right?
There aren't. There are more than people probably realize. They're called infill lots. That's one lot here, one lot there. And you say, well, isn't that good? A lot of times, those one or two lots, Mike, left in subdivisions that you see when you drive around, they've been vacant for forever. Mm-hmm. Somebody mows them 3 times a year.
Right.
There's a reason for that. It's just maybe not the most desirable spot on that subdivision, or it's got a low point, or it's got whatever. And those get built on over time. They do, but it's not the same as having quality lots in a subdivision, in this case, where people look at it and say, okay, great, I know what this is going to look like when it's done.
Okay. So that's moving forward, as we said. And look for some activity this fall.
Yeah, keep posted. When we do this program in early July, it will probably come after the bids have been opened.
Okay.
And at that point, you and I will know whether it's a complete go based upon the numbers we get from contractors.
Okay. That's July 2nd, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Okay. So look for that. Okay. All right. We've got a few other things we want to talk about. The hour's slipping away on us here. So let's take a break. And we'll come back and continue our conversation with City Administrator Steve Barg on the Insight program today on WDLB. It is the Insight program for Friday, June 4th, 2021. Mike Warren with you, and the City Administrator Steve Barg is with us on the program today as well, talking all things City of Marshfield here on Dairy Fest weekend.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Kind of sort of back to normal a little bit. Not 100%, but there's stuff happening.
It still feels really good after the past 14 months to see people out and about. People are so hungry right now to do things. It's incredible. Even if Dairy Fest is not 100% what it normally would be, I think people are very anxious to be part of it.
Yeah, and I was trying to read my T-shirt upside down. Is it legendary? Is that what it says?
Legendary.
Dairy Fest is legendary.
It's hard to read upside down, isn't it?
It is. For me, it's hard to read right side up, in fact. But legendary, 40th anniversary.
Oh, nice shirt. Yeah.
40th anniversary, 1981.
Wow.
Our very own Les Leonard, our farm director at the time, Hall of Fame broadcaster, got together with then Mayor Marilyn Hardiker. They put together this little thing called Dairy Fest. So,
and look at it now, how it's grown. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. I love people who have vision like that.
Isn't that something?
It is. I know. Some people just can just come up with stuff like that, and it just works. And people like me, I'd come up with some idea, and it would be like a flop.
Exactly. I know how you feel. But, Les probably was sitting there going, we got to do something for the farmers. How do we recognize the farmers, the farming community, the backbone of our, industry or whatever around here in this area? I'm sure that's what he was thinking. And, at that time, who do you go to get things done? Marilyn Hardiker, the mayor at the time. And, well, why don't we do, I don't know, a breakfast and celebrate dairy and that kind of thing. And so it's become the city's basically annual salute to the dairy industry. I wasn't in town until 2011, but I get the impression that Marilyn was a go-getter. I mean, I've heard that, certainly getting the Parkway project and other road things accomplished, and she was a mover and shaker. Yeah, even not just here. I mean, she'd walk into the Capitol in Madison, and people would, we hear Marilyn's in town, so better get ready to get an earful.
Not too shy.
Yeah. Oh, not at all. So, and Les wasn't either. He wasn't afraid to tell you what he thought. So cool. They got things done. So here we are, 40 years later, celebrating Dairy Fest.
Nice. In
the city of Marshfield. All right. Speaking of Dairy Fest, a lot of the activities are happening downtown at the new Wenzel Family Plaza. What a beautiful addition to our city. And it has become really the center of activity for Dairy Fest weekend, with lots of things going on down there tonight, during the day tomorrow, with Center City Fun Day and the food trucks, Food Truck Friday and all that kind of thing. But where does that fit in? Wenzel Family Plaza. What is it? Who runs it? Was it a Main Street thing? Was it a Marshfield Chamber thing? Was it a Visit Marshfield thing? It's not a City of Marshfield thing. Who owns it? Who runs it? Who manages it? There was some recent activity on Wenzel Family Plaza, and just who controls that space and who's in charge down there, right? We have some updates on that.
Well, it's kind of funny when someone has a vision for something, that doesn't mean they have all the questions answered, right? So in other words, the vision for a downtown gathering place, and it's a great idea. And before I'd ever heard the vision, I'd been to the 400 block in Wausau, as many people have been. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be nice if we had some version of that here? But how do you do it? We don't have enough space for a 400 block of Wausau. But those who had the vision, and Jason Angel was greatly involved back then. He was at the time, the community development director, got that thing off the ground. But it was intended to be always for the city to own and be responsible for the maintenance of it. And our Parks and Recreation Department has overseen that basically since day one. But the real thing is who's responsible for programming and getting all the activities and concerts and those kind of things happening. And so we had a memorandum of understanding that had multiple parties involved, but a coordinator was hired under the auspices of the Main Street program. And that was always kind of a weird thing, because Main Street always wanted to see the plaza take off. It's a good thing to bring people downtown. Hopefully while they're there, they shop, they eat at the restaurants, whatever. But I don't think they ever felt comfortable with the relationship that they're overseeing this person and that they're responsible for that piece of the pie. So over time, there's been some ups and downs, bumps in the road. What Justin Kasperson, our Parks and Recreation Director, has been working on with others is, it's been 3 years now. Let's bring this person under the city employment. Let's make this person a city employee working under the direction of the Parks and Recreation Department. It fits well with the fact that the city's responsible for maintenance and upkeep and garbage and all these things. Let's just have it be one-stop shopping. We can get funding from others, but let's have it be us that's handling all the pieces of the puzzle. So what's on the plan right now? It was run by the council. They gave it the thumbs up at the last meeting. There's still work to be done, but would be a three-way payment for the individual's wages. 40% from the Economic Development Board, 40% from Visit Marshfield, which is formerly CVB, and then 20% from the city of Marshfield. And looking for a commitment of maybe up to 4 years. One of the things we struggle with is, what if finances become a problem for one or more of the groups? And then you're the coordinator, you're Nikki, for example, right now, and you're thinking, do I have a job in a couple of years? This sounds a little shaky. We want to have a commitment staked out that we're going to have a Wenzel Family Plaza coordinator for a long time to come. If we don't get the events and the activities and the concerts that we want, it's a beautiful space, fun splash pad, but we haven't made the most of it. So that position is critical. So what we're doing right now, based on the council's approval, we're sending it to our compensation consultant and finding out where that position would be on the pay scale. And then once we have that worked out, we'll bring back whether or not the council wants to formally make this person an employee.
Well, I think there's also some synergy there already in terms of the Parks and Recreation Department, charging fees or handling fees for other events. And so if you're now renting or using the Wenzel Family Plaza or something, and there's a fee or something involved, they already have that sort of, I guess I could call it infrastructure in place to handle that kind of a thing already, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are things that were not present with the Main Street Board.
Right.
Again, the Main Street Board, they have a great executive director in Kaylee Gomez. They have some wonderful people that serve, but I don't think they're as well suited to be the oversight entity for this position as the city of Marshfield is. And like you said, there's a lot of synergy between the maintenance part, the operations part, and the programming part. So again, I want to give kudos to Nikki too. For those people who don't know Nikki Anderson, she's just does an amazing job. And she had a tough go last summer because with COVID, there really wasn't much that we could do. But the world's opening up again, and we look forward to seeing a lot of activity at Wenzel Family Plaza.
Okay, so Nikki Anderson is the what is her official title?
I think right now she's called Wenzel Family Plaza Director or Coordinator. I apologize. I've always said Coordinator.
Okay.
But when this is over, her title, I believe, will be Wenzel Family Plaza Director if she becomes a city employee.
Okay. And that is scheduled to happen sometime this summer?
Well, we've sent the position out for looking at the pay scale. And again, the consultant looks at everything. They look at the degree of difficulty. They look at the independent judgment a person needs to exercise, what education and experience are needed to be a coordinator. And once they get that back, we'll go through the rest of this process. The plan really, Mike, this won't totally transition until somewhere around the first of the year. You're not going to see changes in how this is done during the summer and the fall of 2021. We're just trying to put the pieces in place to kick off 2022 in a different way.
Because it would have to be part of the budget, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, that is correct.
Because I'm looking at the background on this and reading the recommendation from the last council meeting, and basically it said approve proposed transition plan and direct staff to develop a new job description for McGrath to review. That's a company that looks at your basically your pay scales to basically determine where people are supposed to be on a pay scale in the city of Marshfield, right? Based on their experience and the going rate for that particular position in city governments around the country or what have you, right?
Yeah, and they look at comparable cities around us, Point, Rapids, whoever else, and they determine that you ought to be on scale number 123, and that means you would start at this amount, you'd go up to that amount, and you'd have so many steps to do it as you progress. That's the kind of thing. And actually, Mike, if I think about it, I said that we've sent it out. I don't think we've actually sent it out to McGrath yet, but we will, so that work is still going on. Although I could be wrong. I apologize. There's a lot going on these days to keep track of. But McGrath, and maybe this will transition into something we touched base on before the end of the show here today.
Yeah.
They did our compensation study back in 2017, and we adopted their plan in early 2018. And we're talking a lot about that lately at City Hall as far as the non-represented employees in general and where people belong, and do we need to make any changes?
There was. Let's go to that. Can we go to that next?
Sure.
There was a compensation plan? I guess McGrath, this company, this is what they do. They look at compensation plans for municipalities or county or city governments and say this is where your people should be at. This is the pay scale that we've got for them. This is what they should be paid based on all these factors. And that recently was reviewed, changed, updated, in the city?
It's being reviewed is what's happening.
Okay.
We adopted back in 2018, so it's been 3 years now. And the concern we have now is, are we falling behind? And we did this before with Carlson Detman back in 2013. And, after a couple of years, if you start falling behind, I don't think anybody in City Hall wants to have another pay study done in 2023, okay? I mean, why would we pay, and we have great consultants. McGrath did a wonderful job, but why would we hand McGrath, $25,000 again if we could give that to our employees, But we have to make sure we're keeping up on it. Now, the council has had to look at the adjustments in the wage scales recently in the last 2 years, thinking about two things. One, COVID, the impact that's happening in the community in general. It may look bad to be giving employees increases when people are being furloughed or they're losing their jobs or whatever. And then the other thing is just the financial struggles we've had at City Hall. With the TIF transfers, with the structural budget deficit, we had a tax increase of note, certainly this last fall. So the last couple of years, Mike, the wage scale adjustments haven't been happening. And so what Jennifer Rakew, our HR director, presented and then I followed up on is if you keep doing that, we're going to drift again. We're going to be back in the world where we're falling behind other cities. We're doing another pay study. We're adjusting again. And I think the council kind of grabbed the hold on this. So at the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting on Tuesday, June 1st, I presented a request for 1% across the board adjustment in the scale, and the committee was favorable. So that'll go to the council on June 8th. And that's at least a way of saying, look, we want to make sure that we're making efforts to stay on top of this. CPI, the Consumer Price Index, went up 3.7% over the last 2 years, and we haven't kept up anywhere near that with the scale. So I think we've learned a lot. I think the council learned a lot how it works. The newer members got a chance to see the workings of the plan as they haven't seen it maybe, and it was worthwhile.
Okay.
So
interesting. All right. So again, June 8th, that'll go to the council. Well, next
Correct.
Tuesday.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Wow.
I know. Again, time is rocking.
This month is going fast already.
Well,
It
when
just started.
When you said July 2nd for the next meeting before, I thought that's a long time from. That's not that long.
Yeah, no, you're right. Geez, less than a month already.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention before we run out of time is I saw this news release the other day. A bicycle and pedestrian plan in progress. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, and I'm not really at the heart of this.
Okay.
I probably should have brought some of the information and reviewed it, but we're really trying to get more people involved in biking as a recreation thing, and being able to be accessing trails from work, from home, from wherever. And that's one of the amenities. I talked about people moving to this community. They want housing, but they also want recreation. So we're trying to kind of jumpstart that in a way to try and we're trying really hard to connect trails. We've been trying for the last few years to try and connect trails that aren't hooked up with each other, to try and make it more of a continuous run. So again, I apologize. I don't have more of a background on this yet, but it's a good movement. It's positive for our community. It's positive for people's physical health, but also for their enjoyment of the city.
Well, and the news release says the goal of the plan is to improve connectivity and safety by identifying future trails and bike routes for future projects. Having said that, they're holding an open house on Wednesday, June 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Wildwood Station to provide information regarding the plan and to gather public input, I guess is the idea here.
Yeah, and I hope a lot of people show up. We have a lot of people who use our trails. My wife and I have done a little bit of walking lately. We've kind of gotten away from it, and the number of people out walking and biking is large. So it'd be great if we could identify those areas that still don't have connections, where you can't hop on from your subdivision or somewhere nearby, and get working on that. Because the more accessible, the more likely it's going to be used.
Yeah, that must be Public Input Day nationally or something, because there's
Really?
they've got this Wood County Jail study thing going on, and they're doing a public town hall type meeting that same night in Marshfield at the Legion.
Let's go. Let's you and I go down to a street corner and get some public input of our own. We'll come up with a couple of questions and see what we get.
What we should do is get public input on town hall meetings that are aimed at getting public input, and whether we should get public input or not on public input.
That would be government, total government.
Exactly. Okay. We also want to mention before we run out of time here, we've got just 5-6 minutes or so left. The council and the city making some changes regarding maps. A couple of maps changes, two different things that we could quickly kind of recap.
Now, first of all, let's tell what we're talking about with maps, right?
Okay, so that's, let's see, Marshfield area, pet shelter.
Yeah. I just didn't want them to think we were talking about physical maps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They've changed the city map.
Yeah. Well, do I still live here?
We now have a lake. It's on the map, right? It says we have one. No, maps.
No.
City maps. Okay.
And the Marshfield area, the Marshfield area pet shelter does a great job. They've been around now for a few years. They recently, moved into the new facility in the air park. A couple things, and they've been discussed at multiple venues now. One is this program of trap, neuter, and release, TNR, which the council signed on to a one-year agreement to allow this. We're trying to get the wild cat, stray cat population under control. And so they're hopeful if people catch one and they bring it in, that we then would be allowed to neuter it and send it back out, release it, with the hopes that at least that cat won't be part of breeding more cats. Now, I don't know after this year of experiment how they're best going to be able to determine the effectiveness. How can you say what would have happened if we hadn't done that? You can show that here's the numbers we're seeing. But I know they're trying really hard, and I really applaud MAP staff, Bob Larson, the enforcement officer from Ordinance, in this effort because it's a hard problem to get your arms around. The other things going on are this idea about how long we hold stray dogs and cats at our impound center. It's been 7 days for a long time. 5 years ago, the state said you can reduce that from 7 days to 4 days. And at that time, MAPS and the city ordinance enforcement were against it. The thought was, we're not ready for it. MAPS is new. They're trying to figure this whole thing out about releasing animals. The thought might have been out there that, well, gosh, I come in to look for my dog on day 5 and day 6, and they say, well, sorry, we already adopted that out to a family in Wapaka, so, good luck finding another dog. What some of the numbers now show, though, is that the typical reclaim of a dog is less than a day. It usually takes less than 24 hours for a person to contact the police department or MAPS, find out that their dog's been impounded and get it back. A cat that's a pet, a little more, maybe a day and a half. So there really aren't dogs and cats being held for days 5, 6, and 7 that the owners are ever found. So this way they can, by going to a 4-day thing instead of a 7-day thing, they can get the adoption process and trying to find a home for these animals going sooner rather than later. Now that still has to be approved by ordinance in the month of June. But the other thing that came up is the fees. MAPS charges fees, they want to charge fees higher than they've been charging. And that's because they provide a greater level of service. You probably know this. They do microchipping, they do vaccines, they do medical care that keeps the ordinance from having to run up to veterinary hospitals. But the council had some questions about, well, wait a minute, that's a big jump from $13 a night to $23 a night for a dog. And but I think ultimately they came to the realization that it's probably warranted given the level of care that's being provided compared to what we used to have.
Okay, so that's going forward.
It is. The ordinance reducing the hold time to 4 days still needs to go through the first and second reading process. But I don't think anybody's opposed to it, so you'll likely see that happen during the month of June. And then their contract terms will then take effect as of July 1.
Okay. All right. That's our time.
Oh, that's great.
Time's up.
Yeah.
That's your session for this month.
I was going to say the next time we get together, it'll probably be pretty hot, July and everything, but it's pretty hot right now.
This might take the prize.
It might.
I think this weekend for the hottest day or days of the year and maybe of all time. We're talking near or at record highs for the weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty early in the year to see 90. It really is. When you see 90 in the first week in June, that's pretty early.
Yeah. And I talked to a friend of mine in Texas recently in the Houston area, and she said, oh, you should have been here in April then.
But we're not, so that's good.
Yeah, so I'm like, no thanks, but it gets even worse for them in July, and anyway.
It does.
Steve, we will see you in July 2nd, Friday, the first Friday of July, scheduled to be back, so we'll get an update on all things City of Marshfield at that time.
Sounds great, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Steve Barg, the City Administrator, on our Insight program here today on WDLB.